The hum of the airplane was steady, almost hypnotic, like the sky itself was trying to cradle me into sleep. I hadn't closed my eyes in nearly 2 days. When you clean other people's pools by day and scrub hotel floors by night, sleep isn't rest, it's survival. By the time I dragged my aching body through the airport and found my seat, exhaustion had already won. I clutched my backpack, the only thing I owned that was truly mine, and promised myself I'd stay awake. I didn't want to miss New York, or the job interview that could finally change everything. But fate has a strange sense of humor. People moved around me, suits, perfumes, power, the kind of lives that never notice people like me. Then he sat down beside me. The scent hit first. Subtle, expensive, cedarwood and something colder, control. When I looked, I almost wished I hadn't. His suit was sharp enough to cut silence. His watch gleamed like it measured time differently. He didn't belong in Coach. That much was obvious. And I didn't belong in his world. Our eyes met once, by accident, and something inside me stuttered. There was nothing casual in the way he looked at me. It was as if he saw through me, through every wall I'd ever built. I turned away, pressing my forehead against the window. Maybe if I pretended hard enough, he'd forget I existed. But exhaustion is a cruel betrayer. The hum of the engines blurred into heartbeat rhythm, soft and dangerous. My eyes grew heavy. The last thing I remember was the warmth. His shoulder against mine, steady, unyielding, impossibly human. I should have pulled away. But in a world that never offered comfort, I let myself have it. Just for a second. 1 second became silence. Silence became surrender. I didn't see the man across the aisle raise his camera. Didn't notice the envelope slipped into the billionaire's hand. Didn't feel the ink sealing my name to his. Because somewhere between exhaustion and oblivion, Ruth Owen, the invisible maid, became Ruth Taylor. And by the time the plane touched down, I wasn't just landing in New York. I was waking up in a stranger's world. As his wife. Hate lies. Hate manipulation. Then you're one of us. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that hit where truth hurts. When I opened my eyes, the world was wrong. The steady hum of the plane was gone. In its place, silence. Too clean, too soft, too rich to be real. I blinked, disoriented. White sheets. Soft sunlight spilling across a marble floor. A skyline stretching beyond glass walls. New York. But not the New York I'd imagined. Not the one I dreamed of from a tiny apartment with flickering lights and cracked ceilings. This was the kind of place people like me cleaned, not lived in. And yet, here I was. I sat up too fast, my head spinning. The sheets felt like silk. The air smelled faintly of cedarwood, that same scent from the plane. For a second, my breath caught. No. It couldn't be. I stumbled out of bed, bare feet meeting cold marble. My backpack sat neatly on a chair, beside a folded letter and a thick leather folder with my name embossed in gold. Ruth Taylor. My heart stopped. I stared at the name, then at the papers inside. Photographs. Signatures. A marriage certificate. My photo beside his. Donald Taylor. The man from the plane. I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. No, no, no. This had to be a mistake. A prank. A nightmare. But the more I flipped through, the colder it got. A wedding date. Yesterday's date. A marriage license. My signature. Then a knock. Soft. Controlled. And before I could breathe, the door opened. He walked in like he'd always owned the room. Dark suit, no tie, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The same calm face I remembered from the flight. Except now, his eyes weren't soft. They were assessing, unreadable. "You're awake," he said. His voice was low, measured, like every word was weighed before it left his mouth. I stumbled backward. Where am I? What is this? He studied me for a moment, then glanced at the folder in my hands. You've seen it. This is insane. I snapped. Why does this say I'm married to you? I don't even know you. He didn't flinch. He just took a slow breath and said quietly, because you are. The words hit harder than a slap. I laughed, half terrified, half hysterical. You're joking. This is fake. I didn't sign anything. You did, he cut in. Before the flight. You thought it was a seating consent form. You signed without reading. I froze. My mind replayed that moment, the tiredness, the blur, the clipboard the flight attendant handed me. No, that couldn't be. You forged this, I said. This is fraud. In your world, he replied coolly, maybe. In mine, it's strategy. His calmness made my skin crawl. What do you want from me? He walked closer, each step deliberate. Nothing you can't live with. You'll stay here for a while, safely, privately. My people will make sure you have everything you need. I'm not staying anywhere. I shouted. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, he said quietly. Tell them what? That you married a billionaire while asleep? That you signed your name and don't remember it? His tone was silk over steel. Do you know how that sounds? My throat tightened. He was right. Who would believe me? A poor maid with no proof, no family, no power? Why me? I whispered. Donald's expression flickered, just for a heartbeat, before hardening again. Because you're more than you think, Ruth Owen. And because in my world, nothing happens by accident. He left the room without another word, and the door clicked shut behind him. I stood there, barefoot, shaking, staring at the skyline that had once symbolized hope. Now it looked like a prison made of glass. Every sound echoed louder. Every breath felt stolen. I wasn't invisible anymore. But I wasn't free, either. On the bedside table, the wedding ring glinted, delicate, flawless, final. A maid who fell asleep on a stranger's shoulder, and woke up a billionaire's wife. The city never sleeps. But in this glass cage, time didn't move at all. Morning light crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows, sliding across the marble like gold on ice. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, calm, deliberate, terrifyingly sure. I wasn't dreaming. I was married. The ring on my finger was proof. Perfect, heavy, and impossibly tight. I'd tried the door first. Locked. Then the elevator. Guarded. Every escape led to silence and polite smiles from people who pretended not to see the fear in my eyes. By the time Donald walked in again, I'd memorized every inch of my prison. He set a tray down. Breakfast. Untouched. Steam rising from coffee that smelled like the kind I used to steal sips of in hotel kitchens. You need to eat, he said without looking at me. I need answers. My voice shook, but I forced it steady. Whatever game this is, end it. Now. He met my gaze. Unflinching. It isn't a game. Then what is it? I demanded. Why me? Out of millions of women in this city, why a maid who can barely afford a plane ticket? Donald leaned back, studying me the way someone studies a chessboard. Because you don't understand your own value yet. My stomach twisted. You tricked me into marrying you, for value. He hesitated, the first real crack in his perfect composure. You signed the papers. Legally, you're Mrs. Taylor. And right now, that name protects both of us. Protects us from what? He turned to the window. The skyline glittered behind him like a wall of diamonds and secrets. There are people who would destroy what I've built. They needed leverage. You were leverage first, now you're protection. That doesn't make sense. It will, he said quietly. He crossed the room and placed a small folder on the table. Inside were photographs, old, yellowed, fragile. My mother's face stared back at me. Younger, brighter, standing beside a mansion I'd never seen. She worked for my father, Donald said, before she disappeared. The words hit me like wind to the chest. How do you know my mother? Because she saved his life once, and he never forgave her for it. I shook my head. You're lying. I don't lie, he said simply. Not about the dead. His eyes softened then, just barely. She left something behind, her shares in Taylor Industries, hidden under another name. Yours. The room blurred around me. You're saying I own part of your company? He nodded once. The final vote in a merger worth billions. That's why they came after you. Why they'd kill you if they knew who you were. Making you my wife was the only way to protect that vote. And you. I sank to the floor, the folder open in my lap. My mother's smile stared back at me, frozen in time beside the man who had ruined her life. And now, mine. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to tear the ring off and throw it at the window. But beneath the fury was something else, a terrible pull I couldn't explain. Maybe it was the way he said my name, or the flicker of guilt in his eyes when he thought I wasn't watching. Whatever it was, it scared me more than the lies, because the only thing more dangerous than being trapped by Donald Taylor was realizing I might be starting to understand him. I thought silence was peace, but here, silence was a weapon. Silence stretched between us. Every beat of my heart felt like a betrayal of common sense. So all this, the plane, the papers, the wedding, was business. His jaw tightened. At first. I whispered. He looked away. It got complicated. The air between us shifted. Heat and hatred tangled together, too close, too dangerous. I stepped back, voice trembling. You can't keep me here. He exhaled, tired now. I'm not keeping you. I'm shielding you. There's a difference. From who? He walked closer, close enough that I could see the faint scar beneath his jaw, proof that even power bleeds. From the people who killed your mother, he said. My breath caught. The room tilted. The world I thought I knew, gone. He touched the edge of the folder, almost gently. Eat something, Ruth. You'll need your strength. Then he turned and walked out, leaving me with the ghosts he'd just raised. 3 days had passed since the storm, since those words that stuck in my head like a scar. I lost control the day I met you. I told myself I didn't care, that I'd never believe a man who forged a marriage and called it mercy. But lies have a strange way of becoming softer the longer you live with them. And Donald Taylor's lies, they were starting to sound like truth. Ruth sits at the breakfast table, untouched food in front of her. A newspaper headline reads, Taylor Industries faces hostile takeover. I wasn't supposed to see it. The headline, the chaos. His empire, the one built on secrets, was cracking. And somehow, I was the piece holding it together. Donald walked in, crisp, composed, unreadable as ever. He saw the paper. His jaw tightened. You shouldn't read that, he said. Because it's true. I asked. He didn't answer. I pushed the paper toward him. You used me for this, didn't you? To save your empire. He looked at me, really looked. I used your name to protect what was already yours. My name. He nodded toward the photograph on the page, my mother's face again, younger, smiling beside his father. She wasn't just a maid, he said. She was the reason my father survived. She owned a part of him, and a part of everything he built. You inherited that. I shook my head. I scrubbed hotel tiles for a living. Don't tell me I inherited power. You inherited leverage, and that's far more dangerous. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Donald's voice dropped. Would you have believed me? No, I admitted, but at least it wouldn't have felt like prison. He set his glass down, deliberate, slow. Do you think I want this? Any of this? Yes, I said. You always get what you want. He stepped closer, shadows cutting across his face. Not everything. Then what don't you have, Mr. Taylor? His silence said it all. The air between us cracked, sharp, fragile, alive. Then he whispered, "Peace." I told myself I wouldn't fall for this, for him. But something about the way he said that word, peace, sounded like a confession. "Stop looking at me like that," I said softly. "Like what?" "Like you care." He didn't move closer, but his voice lowered, rougher now. "I told you once, perception is truth. But you make me forget which is which." My heart raced. Every line he spoke felt like a sin I wanted to believe. I turned to leave. But then his hand brushed my wrist, not to stop me, but to steady me. Electric. Wrong. And yet, I didn't pull away. I should have hated him more. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But every secret he shared made my anger weaker and my confusion stronger. On the nightstand, the marriage certificate stared at me, flawless signatures on forged love. I traced the ink with my finger until my vision blurred. Then I noticed something else, tucked behind it. A photo. My mother again. But not alone this time. She stood beside a young boy. A boy with familiar eyes. Donald's. I froze. My breath caught. She'd known him. Not his father. Him. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Deliberate. Certain. I hid the photo under the papers just as Donald entered. He paused when he saw me. "You're still awake." I couldn't sleep. He nodded slowly, stepping closer. "You've been thinking." "About what?" He smiled faintly. "About leaving." I swallowed. "And if I did?" He didn't answer right away. His voice softened, almost tender. "You'd never make it past the elevator." "Because you'd stop me." "No," he said. "Because they'd find you before I could." Ruth stares at him. Fury and fear mingled with something else. He was right. I hated that he was right. "You keep talking about they," I said. "Who are you really protecting me from?" Donald's gaze darkened. "From the same people who killed your mother." The words punched the air out of me. He didn't wait for my reaction, just turned toward the window, his reflection merging with the lights of the city. "Good night, Ruth." And with that, he was gone. I came here by accident. But maybe there are no accidents. Maybe my mother's ghost brought me here, to finish what she started. Or maybe I was never meant to leave at all. They say appearances are everything in this city. And tonight, I was nothing but an appearance. The dress wasn't mine. The diamonds weren't mine. Even the name I carried wasn't mine. But when I looked in the mirror, I almost believed her, the woman staring back, graceful and polished, like she belonged beside him. Mrs. Donald Taylor. He looked like sin wrapped in silk. Cufflinks. Precision. Calm. Every inch the billionaire the world worshipped. And I, his carefully manufactured wife. "Smile if you can," he said quietly. "They'll be watching." I stared out the window. "They always are." He didn't reply. He didn't have to. The truth sat heavy between us. We were heading to a charity gala, a stage to keep up the illusion. The world thought we were in love. And tonight, we'd have to play the part. The room smelled of money and secrets. Every woman wore diamonds like armor. Every man hid danger behind a smile. Donald's hand rested at the small of my back, possessive, practiced. He leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "Just stand beside me and don't let go," he murmured. I nodded, but my pulse was wild. Part fear, part something I didn't want to name. Moments later, the rival appears. Then he walked in. Ethan Cross. His presence cut through the noise like glass. I'd seen his face before, headlines, business panels, charm that was too smooth to be safe. He was Donald's rival, and he was looking straight at me. "Mrs. Taylor," he said, taking my hand. So this is the woman who finally tamed the untamable. Donald's grip on my back tightened. I forced a smile. We all have our secrets. Ethan chuckled, eyes glinting. Some secrets were better than others. The air between them was electric, unspoken threats disguised as pleasantries. I realized then this wasn't a party. It was a battlefield dressed in champagne. Later, the dance floor. Music slows. Donald offers his hand. "Dance with me," he said. I hesitated. "Is that an order?" He smirked. "A request." The orchestra swelled as we moved to the center. Every eye followed us, the perfect couple, the illusion of power and love. But underneath, every step was war. His hand at my waist, steady, commanding. Mine, trembling against his chest. "Do you ever get tired of pretending?" I asked. "Pretending that this is real." He leaned in, voice a whisper. "Every time I look at you, I forget that it's not." For a moment, everything else vanished. The music, the lights, the lies. It was just him and me. And the truth we were both too afraid to say. Suddenly, Ethan appears beside them, smiling. "May I cut in?" he asked smoothly. Donald's jaw clenched. "No." Ethan ignored him, his hand brushing mine as he turned me toward him. His grip was confident, his smile dangerous. "You don't belong in his world," he murmured. "And you do." I shot back. He chuckled. "At least I don't build prisons and call them protection." Across the floor, Donald's eyes darkened. He moved toward us, controlled fury in motion. Then it happened. Donald took my arm, pulled me back into his hold. And before I could breathe, his mouth crashed onto mine. Gasps echoed. Cameras flashed. The world froze. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was a declaration. Possession disguised as passion. A warning, a plea, and a confession all at once. When he finally pulled away, his voice was low, dangerous. "Now they'll never question it." I stared at him, trembling, fury and heartbreak mixing in my chest. Was that for them, or for you? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The city lights blurred outside the window. I could still taste him. Anger, power, something I couldn't name. Finally, I whispered, "You had no right." His gaze stayed on the skyline. "You had no choice." "That wasn't part of your deal," I said. He turned to me, voice quiet, almost raw. "There was never a deal, Ruth. There was only survival." For the first time, I saw it, the man beneath the mask. And I hated how much of me wanted to understand him. They called it a kiss. But it wasn't love. It was a lock clicking shut, on a cage that felt too much like home. And the worst part? A small part of me didn't want to escape anymore. Some silences don't bring peace. They bring questions. And questions, in this house, were dangerous. After the gala, Donald disappeared for 2 days. Meetings, his assistant said. Business. But I didn't believe her. He was hiding something. And I was done pretending I didn't care. The room smelled of cedar and dust. Stacks of files. Locked drawers. I found one key, small, gold, hidden under globe. The drawer clicked open. Inside, documents. My mother's name again. Clara Owen. Employment contracts. Wire transfers. And then, a letter. Sealed. Addressed to Donald. My hand shook as I unfolded it. "If you're reading this, your father has found me. Protect Ruth. She's the only piece of the truth that still matters." My throat tightened. My mother had known him, not just known. Trusted him. Before I could breathe, a shadow filled the doorway. Donald. He looked calm. Too calm. "I told you not to go through my things." I held up the letter. "Then you should have told me the truth." He exhaled. "You weren't ready." "Ready?" I snapped. To learn that my mother worked for your family? That she trusted you? That she died protecting a secret that you're still lying about? His jaw clenched. She didn't die because of me, Ruth. Then who? He looked at me, pain flickering through control. My father. The world tilted. What? He found out she planned to expose him. The embezzlement, the stolen shares. He silenced her before she could ruin him. Tears stung my eyes. And you let me think it was strangers. You let me hate you. He stepped forward. Because it was safer that way. Safer for who? He didn't answer. Instead, he whispered, I promised her I'd protect you, even if you'd never forgive me. Something inside me cracked. Hate and heartbreak tangled into something I couldn't name. He wasn't just the man who trapped me. He was the boy my mother had trusted, and the man paying for his father's sins. When he reached out to touch my hand, I didn't pull away. For the first time, I saw the truth. Donald Taylor was as trapped as I was. It happened fast. Too fast. 1 minute, I was leaving the penthouse for air. The next, a black van screeched beside the curb. Hands. A cloth. Silence. Then, darkness. When I woke, the air smelled of oil and fear. I was tied to a chair. And across from me, Ethan Cross. He smiled like a man who'd already won. You should have stayed asleep on that plane, he said. I glared. You don't scare me. He chuckled. No. Then let's talk business. You're the legal Mrs. Taylor. That means you control his vote, his assets, his downfall. Sign this. He slid papers across the table, and I'll let you go. I stared at him. And if I don't? His smile faded. Then you disappear, just like your mother. The room spun. My blood ran cold. I whispered, you killed her. He tilted his head. Not me. But I made sure the right people did. Rage drowned fear. You won't touch him. He laughed. Him. Darling, I don't want him. I want everything he owns. And that includes you. He leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face. I spat at him. That's when I heard it. Faint, distant, familiar. Gunfire. Then, the door burst open. Donald. His suit was gone. His eyes were ice. Behind him, armed guards moved with precision. Ethan's smile vanished. You brought an army. Donald stepped forward. I brought consequences. In seconds, chaos exploded. Gunshots. Shouts. Donald dragged me from the chair, shielded me behind him. Are you hurt? He demanded. I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. You came for me. He looked at me, voice breaking for the first time. I always will. Ethan was taken away in handcuffs, bleeding but alive. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Because the man who had once stolen my life had just risked his to save it. The doctors said he'd live. But they didn't see what I saw, the exhaustion behind his eyes, the weight of guilt he'd carried for too long. He looked at me, voice quiet. You should go. Start over. The marriage, the contract, it's all being dissolved. I shook my head. That's what you want. He smiled faintly. It's what you deserve. But what if I don't want freedom? I whispered. He looked away. Then you're worse at pretending than I thought. Cut to later that night. Ruth and Donald on the balcony, overlooking the sleeping city. The wind was cold. He stood behind me, close enough for warmth, far enough for restraint. You risked everything, I said. Why? He hesitated. Because I was wrong. About what? He turned toward me. About control. I thought I could build safety out of lies. But you made me see that the truth hurts less than pretending. The city lights glimmered in his eyes. Bright, broken, human. I whispered, then tell me one more truth. He exhaled slowly. I love you, Ruth. I've loved you since that flight. I just didn't know what love was until you hated me. Tears burned my throat. Then why let me go? Because real love doesn't keep people in cages. Music swells. She rests her head against his chest, silent, both knowing the world outside won't wait. Freedom. It didn't feel like I imagined. The papers lay on the table. The annulment, signed by both of us. His final gift. His final goodbye. I picked it up, tracing the ink that ended a marriage that had never truly begun. And then I saw the note beneath it. Folded. Written in his hand. You were the only truth in my life of lies. Don't waste your freedom hating me. D. My tears fell on the page before I could stop them. I came to New York chasing survival. Instead, I found love in the most impossible place, inside a lie. Some nights, I still dream of that flight. Of falling asleep on a stranger's shoulder and waking up in a world I never asked for. But I've learned something since then. Fate doesn't ask for permission. It just chooses you. Ruth standing on a bridge at sunset, wedding ring in her hand. She lets it fall into the river below, light catching it one last time. They called it a scandal. They called it manipulation. But for me, it was love. Twisted. Messy. Real. And though my name is no longer Ruth Taylor, a part of me will always belong to the man who married me by midnight.